going to be fun. So, what do you think her expectations are realistically? You know, she's comfy at home, and then we'll talk about Prague and Alireza here in a second. But David, what do you think her expectations are if you're Pia Kramling?
Yeah, I mean, Pia, she gives this impression that she's the most Faishali, now Pragg.
Yeah.
And this one, as you mentioned, it's one of the more kind of developed games so far. We'll just go from the start very quickly here. We see the Catalan opening, which we also saw in the Ding against Carlsen game. And here, after kind of reaching the start position of the Catalan, Black takes a pawn and plays c5. So this is regarded as being the direct attempt to equalize. You try and just destroy the center, obliterate all of the pawns there, and queen to a4 isn't a second pawn sacrifice for anyone wondering at home. Pawn takes d4 is very strongly met now by knight takes d4, and after queen takes, there's some tricks, some little tactics against the black king. So bishop to d7 was played, is the main move, and after a couple of captures we see level material, almost symmetrical pawn structure, but white maybe with a slightly more active pieces. What do we think here?
It's interesting in these structures, right? Because objectively, there's not a ton of spicy stuff going on, right? The structures are dead equal on both sides, but the open lines and the subtle maneuvers of the timing of where you put the pieces can sometimes lead to one player catching the other in preparation. Otherwise, you sometimes see the game get more simple than others. Although, again, what's great about this event is no matter what, when you say that, you're not depriving the fans at home, right? I feel like as chess commentators and fans ourselves, how many times are you explaining to people about the draw in chess? Don't even get me started on stalemate, right? You're trying to explain to a new player like how it works, that there's 3 results. This event doesn't have that. So anyone watching this game and goes, okay, like even if it does simplify, you know, I'm robbed of the blood that I want to see on the board, but no, not here.
I think we're almost rooting for draws in that sense, because the Armageddon will be so exciting. I would love to see an Armageddon every day, a couple of Armageddons at the least.
Yeah. I mean, I think by round 9 or 10, we might be rooting for games to end in classical. We'll see what happens by then, because the nights get kind of late, right? When we've got Armageddon every round. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, last year, especially towards the end of the tournament, I think Magnus was the one rooting for draws in classical, because he won 7, I believe, Armageddon games in a row.
Yeah.
He was just, at some point, just going for the draw just to kind of bank some points. But yeah, nice to see the players play so ambitiously in the opening here. Pragg, knight c3, I think he's just going to develop. Rook d1, bishop f4, pieces just coming out to natural squares. It's just a position, as they say.
Talking about what you just mentioned as a bit of a meta as we get started here. Welcome in Norway Chess 2024. We're just getting underway. You mentioned that Magnus pushed a lot of his matches to Armageddon.
Yeah.
Do you feel like in hindsight that was partly because he just wasn't feeling it in classical, his form was off, and so he kind of felt this was his best chance to get by? Or are there some players who come in thinking, look, I will take my chances in what is close to a 50-50 Armageddon as a strategy going into the game?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. It also depends on who you're facing. Like, Hikaru won the tournament last year, but there were 1 or 2 matches he was playing his closest rivals, and he would push it to Armageddon, not just to secure his own points, but to take points away from them. So, yeah, there's different ways, different strategies of playing this type of event, Anna.
Yeah, it's very different, and this is the only super tournament that has this format. So even though all the participants are very experienced, top chess players, no one has much of an experience in this format. Do you try to risk in the classical game a bit more to try to earn 3 points? Or do you try to go for the Armageddon, but then you only get
Which DA jumps in, but I'm gonna let David go first if he'd like. I actually do think this has weird chances for both sides. But David, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, that Pia Kremlin game earlier, I was going to say that Rook and Bishop tend to work better as a pair compared to Rook and Knight. When it's Queen and Knight, though, they tend to work extremely well against Queen and Bishop. However, the pawn structure, I mean, I'm quite biased. I love Connect 4 as a game and as a pawn structure. And Black's chain here looks beautiful. And all of White's pawns on dark squares means they can be targets. So I'm going to say, actually, I'd prefer to be Firouzja as Black, despite my preference for Queen and Knight as a combo. Danny, you mentioned all results possible, but who would you pick?
No, but I agree. I'm going to go Firouzja as well. I mean, I'm staring at Queen H8, and I'm wondering what the awkwardness is. I wonder if there's like a Bishop F6, you let them take H7 and Bishop G7. I see you smiling and nodding over there. Yeah, you like that? Okay. Okay. That could be, if that's Firouzja's idea, how sneaky that might be to let you take it. Okay, it is. And then Bishop G7. And that's a funny one because I would like it. I'm glad that I was right on this rare occasion. We just had a moment, David. You and I, did you see that? That was a moment.
I'm just third wheeling here.
No, you're not. That was a moment. All right. So we back up. It's just that International Master, I sometimes stands for insecure, and it's nice when a GM is nodding along as you're spotting an idea. Anyway, so that's interesting, right? And now the bishop. That means the bishop, by the way, is coming to F6 anyway. And I'm with you that I feel like pawns on both sides of the board typically favor bishops. Pawns on dark squares, as you already highlighted, the bishop is a dark square bishop. Pressure, Prague is under 5 minutes. I'm giving Firouzja outside chances as maybe the only one who gets a dub without needing Armageddon here.
And Prague, let's find some positives to
I need to say something positive about White's position because I was calling it an Armageddon already. But after your analysis, Danny, I'm starting to like Alireza's position a lot. And it still should be fine for Prague, but he has to be a lot more precise in his choice of moves. And he's down to 4 minutes. This is move 37, so they will start getting increments soon. But as we pointed out, the increment is only 10 seconds. You're gonna be playing a blitz/bullet game for the rest of your life in this game.
No, agreed. And again, we get biased when we think of increment. 10 seconds is not that much, as you already pointed out earlier, and players are often used to 30 seconds in classical.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun, is that the pressure remains the whole time. And what do you think, David? Is it so? Now let's switch. Let's play defense for Prague. What happens if we just try to get the queens off the board? Right? There's a queen B3. There's a queen C4 on the board. Okay, a king D1.
D1.
And maybe you're going to meet Bishop F6 with this. You got to get that king in a position where it can help defend the pawns on dark squares. So this was a very accurate move by Prague. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. Sometimes you have to be passive. It's very tempting to jump in, moves like Queen H8, but if your army isn't coordinated, isn't ready for it, then it can backfire. So, also, I like how he's kept his Queen on C3, because any Bishop F6 moves might be just simply met by a check on C7. So he's kind of keeping this black bishop honest on D8. And yeah, I don't think you should rush the queen exchange, even if the white king is more in position now, simply because there are pawns on both sides, and that removes any risk or any kind of prospect of a counter-attack. But yeah, I think Prague's got it. King C2, he waits, should be a draw.
All right.